everyone, welcome to my channel. I am just Shani and today we're going to be watching TikTok scary stories. The product of the day is an ice cream maker. No, it's summertime, and everything is getting expensive in the store. So link in the description, ice cream maker. Go ahead and cop yours now for the summertime.
Okay, so I actually have two ghost stories that are taking place like 15 years apart, but they're actually intertwined in a weird way. So I'll describe this. So the first and the more recent one was in 2012 and 13. Me, my dad, my brother, and my sister moved into a house in Seabrook, Texas. That's very close and near the water. So Seabrook is near Kima, which is along the Gulf Coast. Like the Kima Boardwalk is a worldwide tourist destination, and we're like 6 miles from the NASA Space Center. Anyway, so we, to sum it up shortly, we're actually starting to see the ghost of a conquistador in the house. And you wouldn't see like a full body apparition. What I personally would see, and I'm kind of showing you the corner of my room up there, is you would see his head come through the corner of the ceiling. And it was like this horrific color of like a weird glowing orange. It was bizarre. And it didn't appear like it wasn't like an everyday thing. It was very periodically, maybe once a month, every few weeks, you would see his head appear. Well, and he definitely was a conquistador. He had the helmet, he had like the beard and like the, curly whatever mustache thing. And he just would like look down and just look very angry at you. And there was this one time where my sister actually took a picture of me with her camera. She was like in eighth grade and got a brand new camera, and my head completely vanished in the picture. And my dog Panda, rest in peace, Panda. He was a Shih Tzu. You knew the head was going to appear in my room because that's usually where it would appear. Because he would start to growl at the corner of the ceiling when it would happen. It wasn't like super terrible or crazy or weird. It was bizarre. And there was this one time where me and my sister, my parents are divorced. Me and my sister were telling our mom about it. And she was sitting down in the living room, and where the couch was, the living room, so the kitchen was like this, and there was an L-shaped wall, and the living room was right here, and it was all open. It's like a big open L, basically. She's sitting at the corner of the couch right there, and right as we tell her about that, you start to hear a man inside the house whispering in Spanish. But it didn't sound like the Spanish that we're used to in Texas, like Mexican Spanish. It was sounded like old world Spanish, and it was very bizarre. It was weird, and like his voice almost like echoed too. It whispered and it echoed like it was carrying on, like it was echoing in a canyon. It was crazy. So that didn't make sense to us, right? We didn't tell any friends really about it. My sister's friend came over one time and got trapped inside my bedroom. That freaked her out. The doors closed. There was nobody there. It was just her and my sister at the house, and the doors shut closed, and she couldn't get out. She was like freaking out. But so here's the thing. This is the crazy part. So I found out through research that the conquistadors shipwrecked all the way from here, the Seabrook Kima area, to Galveston, Texas. And that's about 45 miles down. There was a fleet of them that came here in the 1500s, a fleet of 300 men, and only about 9 or 10 made it back alive to Spain, like almost a decade later. Most of them, from what I understand from the history that I read, most of them either died, they stayed with some of the Native American women and had children, or they were cannibalized by I think it's called Karankawa Indians. They're extinct. They're no longer around. They went extinct, I think, in the 1800s. So years later, when I discovered that, like 10 years later, a year or two ago, when I discovered that, it made so much sense. I was like, oh my God, they shipwrecked all the way from Seabrook to Galveston 500 years ago. I was like, I bet you anything there was a body of one of them underneath that house or near it somewhere on the property, probably deep in the ground, but there was a body there, or what's left of a body. So anyway, let me tell you the crazy thing, because I mentioned the Karankawa Indians. So in the early 90s, I mean late 90s, late 90s, like the year 2000, um we lived in this house in the same city in Seabrook, which was about uh 3 miles away from the house where I just talked about the Conquistador ghost. When me and my older brother Sam were little, I was about 4 and 6. He was, and I was 4, he was 6, and then we lived there for a couple of years. So 5 and 7, you get the point. The 2 year difference. We used to see the ghost of a Native American in the closet, and we would call him the white man because, like, I mean, he was like as white as a fluorescent light bulb. Not so much white in terms of ethnicity. Like, we just called him the white man, and we were terrified of him. Well, I remember this one time. I was about 4 years old, and or 5, and I fell out of the bunk bed. I was on the bottom bunk, and I looked underneath the bed, and this is late at night, waking up in the middle of the night, and I see the face of a Native American man, but like where his eyes are, the eye socket, it's all completely black, and it's like it's black right here too. So it's like all black, and then it's just black going down. But even though there was no eyes or anything, I could tell he was just looking at me, and it was just his head. And it's like the floor underneath the bed was like a black void that went on forever, like it went down. And his face was like glowing a weird color, and I just remember screaming bloody murder when that happened. And my dad came into the bedroom. He took me into the master bedroom to sleep with my mom in the bed, and then he slept in the bunk bed. Well, I asked my dad about that like 18 years later, and he said he remembered that night. He said he was scared. He said he just remembered keeping his eyes closed, but he could hear and feel that there was actually someone or something walking around the room. And he said he just kept his eyes closed the whole night and didn't open them or anything. Well, how does that tie in with the Conquistador story? I find out years later that in Seabrook, Texas, there's a trail called Independence Trail, which is along Highway 146, and a bunch of Karankawa Indians were massacred along that trail in the 1800s. So, right, who expects to live anywhere in the United States and to have the ghost of a conquistador haunting your house? And then Native American ghosts, which ironically is kind of connected to the conquistador ghosts because they shipwrecked and some were cannibalized by them and others married and had women and all that stuff. But yeah, that's my crazy ghost story.
Yo, that's scary. Did that light just come on by itself, or like I don't know? That must have been a timer light because it was just at the end. It was just like light. That's scary, Fred. And your dad, he was a trooper. He was just like, no, I can't let my other son be in here by himself. So, gotta tough it out. That's scary, friend. Y'all, and it's like y'all was haunted. Y'all couldn't get away from being haunted, yo. He was up in the closet, then under the bed. Keep it going, keep it going.
Okay, so this is part two of more stories. I already did a part one on two bizarre ghost stories I had. I have many, many ghost stories since childhood because, long story short, me and my sister came to the conclusion because I'm a clairvoyant, like my grandfather was. It's not so much that every house we've lived in was inherently haunted. Things got attracted to me. That's what we started to figure out. I was the common denominator. Anyway, so this story is actually kind of bizarre, and I don't really know how to explain this. So most ghost stories we hear about are things like, apparitions, shadow entities, shadow people, demons, all that stuff, right? Well, this ghost story right here is not so much a ghost, but it's inanimate objects moving. So let me explain. So, in my first stitch that I made with this creator, I talked about how I lived in a house in Seabrook that was haunted by the ghost of a Native American. And me and my brother would see him, and we were afraid of him. We called him the white man because his skin was very white, like a fluorescent light bulb. So, we lived in that house till the year 2000. We moved to a city called Friendswood and lived there for 1 year in a rent house, while our new house in Seabrook was being built that our parents had commissioned in this neighborhood called Seabrook Island. And the rent house, nothing happened in. But in the Seabrook Island house, something very bizarre happened one day that I can't explain. And it's kind of freaky because my dad had a similar experience when he was a child that we didn't even know about till years later. So in the living room, my mom had this big giant TV stand that had like shelves. It was very, very big, like the size of a wall. And on the bottom right shelf, she had a statue of the Virgin Mary. Now, this statue it looked like a deep or a dark blue marble. And it was of the Virgin Mary. Now, it didn't have details like an eyes or a nose or anything. It was just like somebody kind of smoothly was getting the rough details made into clay, if that makes sense. Like, you could see the halo, but the halo was like connected to the head, and like there was just like a blank, it was all flat where the face was supposed to be. It was purposely designed like this, but you could tell it was the Virgin Mary. Well, one time we're watching cartoons, me and my brother, and the statue, she just starts to move. And she's like a solid piece of marble or whatever the hell she was made of. And like she's moving weird like this. I know this looks kind of silly, like, almost like she's at a rave or something. But she just starts like moving and doing weird shit like this. And me and my brother are like, I'm 6, he's 8, and we're like, looking at each other like, are you fucking seeing this? And we were terrified from that one experience. That was the only time that ever happened. We saw that statue move, but we were afraid of that statue, and we would always put it in the shelf underneath where it was, because this giant TV stand had like 3 shelves, big open space for the TV, and then 3 shelves going down, and then like 2 cabinets below each side with like double doors. They were like maybe like 1.5 by 1.5, not very big. But we used to put the statue inside the cabinet below, where she was sitting, because we were afraid of her. And our mom would get so pissed at us, like, because we wouldn't put the statue away in front of her. We would do it when she wasn't around or wasn't looking, but she would get so pissed at us, and it was weird, right? An inanimate object moving like it's alive, like breaking the laws of physics, right? Well, here's the crazy part. So I must have been in about my mid-20s when my dad told me this. I'm about to be 30. So like for age reference, I'm turning 30 on April 30th. I was in my mid-20s, and my dad told me the craziest paranormal experience he ever had was, he said, when he was a little boy in his parents' house, and my grandma died recently, but my grandpa still lives in that same house. He said when he was a little boy, he was sitting on the bed in my grandparents' bedroom, his parents' bedroom, and he said there was this statue of the Virgin Mary that literally jumped off the dresser or whatever the hell she was on, a nightstand, something, vanity. She was on something. She jumped off, and she got on the bed with my dad, and she sat down next to him, and she talked to him about things. My dad says he doesn't remember what they talked about, but I'm telling you, my dad, he will let you call him every name in the book. He will never, ever, though, let you convince him that he was crazy or it was his imagination. He was about 4 or 5 years old, and he remembers it so, so vividly. Oh, sorry, my air conditioner turned on. He said she literally jumped off the dresser or whatever it was. She got on the bed and she sat down next to him, and she talked, and then to him about whatever it was. He doesn't remember. And then she got back on the dresser. And that was something that he experienced that never happened again. Now, I have a question to any of you out there that are psychics or mediums or clairvoyants or intuitives, whatever you want to call yourself, doesn't matter. So like I said, I'm a clairvoyant like my grandpa was. I'm an imagery-based psychic. There's different types of psychics. There's clairaudience, clairessence, claircognizance. There's different types, right? Mine is more like imagery-based things. So here's a question for you, if any of you can help me with this. So, since I was a child, as long as I can remember, I see these sparkles that start to happen out of nowhere. Now, these sparkles are totally random. They can happen at the most random day, the most random time, any location, alone in the house, busy theme park, at work. They're so random. And I don't know how to describe what it is or what's going on. It's like all of a sudden, I just will start to see these sparkles zooming across everywhere. And they're like green and yellow and silver and red and all these different colors. And they just start to zoom and zoom and zoom across. And like when I see them happening, I'm always like in a trance state and I'm like sitting there and my eyes are going back and forth. And, I have friends and coworkers over the years have asked me, they're like, what the hell are you doing? Like, are you okay? They've like questioned, are you okay, Caleb? And, I explained to them, I've actually been very honest and open and just told people about it. And surprisingly, nobody's like been mean or rude about it, but I've never been able to explain what it is, like, or to get an explanation. Like, I had a friend one time who was like, "Oh yeah, I see those too. Like if I rub my eye," I'm like, "No. It's not like static when you rub your eye. It looks like little sparkles, and they're like zooming across in all these different areas. Like they zoom and disappear, but there's multiple of them, all these different colors. And like I said, it's at the most random time that these sparkles happen, and I don't know what they are, what they mean. Like there's no correlation. Like in all the haunted houses that I've lived in, the sparkles didn't happen before, poltergeist activity happened. It's just random. Like I saw them about a week ago sitting on my porch outside, just sitting down, on the nice sunny day, and all of a sudden, I'm like, and they're just zooming everywhere. I don't know what the hell it is. Like clearly it has something to do psychic wise, but I don't know what it means. The only thing I was ever able to find was there was a woman who wrote a book for parents of psychic children, and I can't remember the title of the book, but you can look it up. You can just Google it. She either said, "Do your kids see sparkles or do your children see sparkles?" I don't know if she used the word kids or children. I can't remember right now, but just type in either one of those and you'll probably find the book. I didn't buy the book. I just read the description. She's like the only person that's like I've been able to find any sort of explanation on this. I did find a Reddit post years ago where somebody said they could see like these silver sparkles, but mine aren't silver. It's like, yeah, there is silver, but there's all these different colors and I don't know what they are or what it is. And it's weird. Right after I tell people about it, I see them. I'll see them within hours, days, maybe a week at most. And sometimes I can go 6 months without seeing them. Sometimes I see them twice in 1 week. But usually in a given year, I probably don't see them more than like 6 or 7 times in a year. But it's funny because more than half the time each year, when I see them, right before I see them, I was telling someone about them and then they show up. I don't know what the hell these sparkles are. Like I said, I've been seeing these since I was a child. If any psychics or mediums have any answers, let me know. But yeah, I got more stitches to do for this because I got a lot of stories.
Bruh. Does anybody know what he's talking about? What he's seeing? What it is? Comment below. Go to his TikTok. Let him know what you think it is. That was wild. If I've ever seen a statue or an object that's just moving by itself, we got a problem. We have a problem. It's time to exit stage left. What are we doing? Nope. The fact that he and his brother experienced it, and also his dad experienced it. I was literally just saying everywhere he went, he was haunted, but it was just him. It was just him. He was sensitive, but man, not for me. Nope. Cause that's a lot. That's a lot. Subscribe.